Alright guys, the time is now for a showdown between the Vampire Coast, who's going to be led by Solostra Direfon, and the Lizardmen, who are going to be led by an Orange Sherbet Slan. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So for our Lord, we do have the glorious Solostra Direfon, and she's going to be joined by a Vampire Fleet Captain. So I definitely think this is the most competitive way to use Solostra. Just bring the the most optimal spell from the Lore of Deeps, which allows you to summon, and then you bring a Vampire Fleet Captain, who does have the Invocation of Nehek, as well as a Drowned Dead, so it allows you to summon a ton of units. The Promethean Summon is so good in this matchup. It's one of the few things you have, aside from Depth Guard, that can really handle the front line of Saurus and really just give you that solid backbone to really protect your missiles back here. So we do have the Damned Knight Errants, the Ghosts of the Past, so they're really good. You summon them, you chase down Skinks, you rear charge Saurus, they cause terror. It's just a very, very solid thing, right? Because the faction in general really lacks mobility and the ability to kind of contest a flank, so being able to summon some, somewhat sturdy Ghost Cav is definitely very powerful. Song of Enthrallment lowers speed and melee attack, and then Denizens of the Deep. Definitely should have cut Kiss of the Deep because I'm not going to have enough to make it spells to spam to make it worth it because she has to do the casting. On top of that, Vampire Fleet Captain. We do, of course, have Invocation and Drowned Dead. The entire front line is going to be the Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs. They're just there to get smacked around. They're obviously not going to do a whole lot against Saurus, as Saurus will beat the brakes off them, which is why Saurus are so good here. And then we have two groups of Depth Guard. So these guys are going to be the MVPs for sure. They're very good at killing Lizardmen infantry. They do struggle a little bit against Temple Guard, but most, Dino players aren't really going to bring Temple Guard in this matchup. So they're really going to shine here, and they look really, really cool. So two groups of them. In the back, we have two groups of Zombie Pirate Gunnery mobs with handguns. Do we have two or three? I think we have three, actually. Yeah, we have three in total. And you have to respect the big dinos. If you don't respect the big, easy dinos, like, for example, Bastillodons or Stegodons could just rampage and annihilate, like, your Depth Guard and your front line. So you have to bring the powder. Granted, most of these players are not going to bring big dinosaurs because of how good the powder is, but it's still, I think you have to do it. It's also quite good against Pterodon Riders and Lords and things like that, and they can do some pretty solid work. On top of that, a couple groups of the Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs with polearms. Arguably, they'd be a little bit better in the front line, but I do have two of those. One group of Deckhand mobs in the back. One group of Sirens, who I like quite a bit. They cause terror. They have good armor piercing. They can stick and move. They're relatively quick with 48 speed. They're a really nice kind of a deterrent unit to get wherever you're essentially having a problem in your formation. That's pretty much it. Aside from that, I have two groups of Fellbats and also three deck droppers with the handguns. And I'd normally, if you're not going to bring the Fellbats, don't bring the deck droppers because Pterodon Riders can just butter their bread so badly. But if you have Fellbats to kind of protect them and give them a little bit of a cushion so they can then fire freely, you definitely can do pretty well. For my opponent's build, very, very good stuff. I mean, it's a good build. He has four groups of Pterodon Riders, which again are a counter to deck droppers and definitely very annoying. I did get some volleys there, so that was pretty good. I think we actually took one out. No, we didn't. Whole front line of Saurus, and then a couple Saurus Spears in the back just in case I go with heavy crab play or Prometheans or anything, or Leviathans for that matter. Couple Skink cohorts with javelins, couple regular ones, and for his Lord, he does have the Orange Sherbet Slan with the high magic, which is so good against deck droppers. If I bunch them up, which I often tend to do, it's a very easy mistake to make when you're moving them, and he gets like a Tempest, they're pretty much all going to die. And he has Apotheosis, the Blood Statuette, and of course the Bound Banishment and Shield of the Old Ones. So guys, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So the frontline battle is about to be underway, the Saurus are coming, and the zombie deckhand mobs are sensing their inevitable pounding here. So I'm going to send them in to obviously hold these guys up. And the guns are getting some decent damage, but Saurus do have shields, so it's not the best engagement. And essentially what I do is I try and do a bit of a cross-up and send these guys after the Skinks and send the Depth Guard into the Saurus, but I always forget how slow they are. So he does catch me pretty well there, and that's going to be a little bit unfortunate. But the Depth Guard are here now, and they're going to give the business to these Saurus. I mean, they are pretty much a hard counter against Saurus Warriors. They do a very, very good job. So that frontline engagement's going okay, but again, I do have a hole in my pocket here. So I summon some crabs. I believe the Damned Knight Errants come in right here, and then I summon some Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs with my Vampire Fleet Captain. So immediately, if you look, we have a big opening, right? And they're like, uh-oh, that's going to be an issue. Summon Deckhand mobs, summon Knights, and then crabs I can summon over here if I need to. So that's why the Summoner build of the Vampire Coast is so damn powerful. So we summon those, and the Damned Knight Errants I do charge into the back here. The Blood Statuette of Spite has been used by my opponent, which is great because it does magic damage, and these guys are ethereal, of course. So they're going to be taking quite a bit of damage, but still causing some disruption in the back line. And in the meantime, he's flying circles around with the Pterodon Riders looking to get to my bats, and we have forced an engagement here, trying to overwhelm them. So we get the Fellbats attacking, we get the Deckhand mobs flying after them, and again, very sloppy on my part because I let them get a little bit too bunched up, so a Tempest right now would just be devastating, but things happen. So we're getting some gunfire in the back, able to force back those Pterodon Riders with our Zombie Pirate Gunnery mobs. In the front line, those Damned Knight Errants are causing a lot of problems for my opponent. We actually routed off one group of the, not the Saurus there, but of the Skinks, I believe. And the Depth Guard is mulching over here. You can see the kills. I'm sure it's pretty good. 41 kills already. They beat the brakes off these Saurus, and now they pushed into the back line where they're going to be cleaving the Skink cohort. So massive value coming from Depth Guard. I definitely think they're very good in this matchup. In the meantime, my guns have turned about face, and they're going to start shooting at the Slan mage with the high magic, but he does fall back with the aura of Pretzel, giving him melee defense and armor. Yeah, it's a little bit helpful. And Solastra is also helping to anchor the front line because I am crumbling. Frontline engagement, of course, is going to favor Saurus. It looks like a big banishment going down as well. And right now, again, I was bunched up. I pulled back. I was a little bit split up, but at least 2 of these groups get caught. So I try and save them with an Invocation of Nehek, but that Tempest just does so much damage. It tanks their leadership. So you can see I'm trying to split them right now, but beautiful stuff from my opponent. That was a really good play and a big misplay on my part. So he is getting through a little bit with some of these Saurus spears. So I'm going to be pulling back the guns as my my bats do fall over there. The Vampire Fleet Admiral and Solastra are going to have to rush to the front line to stop this onslaught. Like, the dinosaurs are everywhere. Thankfully, my Depth Guard are in very good shape here, and I believe this is going to be a Krabby summon because we do have a pretty big engagement here. So you can see that the Prometheans have been summoned, and they're going to start crab slapping some of these dinosaurs. So this is what they're so good for. I mean, just whenever you're being swarmed or overrun somewhere, just some of those crabs, and it will help you very, so much. The Sirens in the front line did pretty good. Not the most kills, but they were able to kind of help support this formation. They were able to terror out and debuff some of these Saurus with their enchantment there. And you can see the Depth Guard also in good shape. So the Depth Guard just performing 75 kills here, and these ones do have 95. So definitely very, very good stuff. So Solastra gets in there. She causes terror. She has the Song of Enthrallment if I need to, so that's definitely very good. And in the back, the guns are in good shape. They're going to be turning as the Pterodon Riders are coming in to cause some problems. So I decided to scoot this one back a little bit just so I don't get, compromised in a 2-for-1 right here. I also have my Vampire Fleet Captain who's back there to help out. And the Depth Guard in the front are holding, but the Saurus are also beating down the deckhand mobs. I believe these Saurus have worked through, they're on their second group now. They have 125 kills, so very, very good stuff there. In the meantime, I do have Felbats chasing off some Pterodon Riders, but he still has a couple groups, and his Orange Sherbet Slan is in pretty much perfect shape. I mean, he's almost full health, has 4,000 HP. Yeah, Slans have a really high HP pool. That's definitely pretty cool. Shield of the Old Ones going down as well, which is going to provide leadership. Oh, does that? Wow, that's really good. Oh, I did not notice that buff. So Shield of the Old Ones now gives 22% damage resist. So I can see where they're trying to make up for nerfing Cold Blood and giving other things. That is really, really powerful. I actually didn't know that. So great stuff. The Depth Guard here getting a little bit worn down. I believe he did use the Blood Statue on them, which was quite powerful. And he's going to be getting in there with his melted ice cream stick and starting to lay a bit of a whooping on my troops. But the Rotting Prometheans got 26 kills. They're anchoring. They're holding back this massive tide. And I'm definitely very happy with that. In the meantime, the gun line is being a little bit compromised. Depth Guard are running about, just chasing down whatever they can catch, going after the Saurus. They should be able to take them out. 134 kills on those bad boys, so very happy with that. And another Tempest goes down, which basically finishes off my Felbats, and then gives my opponent freedom with his Pterodon Rider. So they can all fly around and cause problems now. Granted, I do have gunfire, which I can turn and, shoot at them, but it's still, ain't nothing free. So Solastra and the Vampire Fleet Captain are having to fight these Saurus Spears here, keeping them back. We do get a summon of Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs, but at the end of the day, I can't stop all of my opponent's dives here. And I'm just having to cover the other gun lines with, just crossfire, right? So these ones are compromised. The other ones are going to turn and start shooting. And they're doing some really good damage. So Banishment going down for my opponent, which actually does drop down the summon Deckhand mobs, but they were all just kind of fake summons. The third group of Zombie Pirate Gunnery mobs is having to fall back because my opponent is going to be pressuring with the Chameleon Skinks, which is going to be tough. Like, I'm pretty much compromised at every angle here in the back line. The Pterodon Riders are diving, Skinks are closing in. These Skinks are probably going to beat down my Deckhand mobs here and eventually get back there. And yeah, it's a pretty messy fight. Very, very close. These guys still paying their dues, 168 kills, just cleaving these Saurus. The hunger, of course, keeping them stable. Over here, the Prometheans and my last bastion of the Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs with pole arms are holding back these guys, but it's really close. The Fleet Captain's going to be going after the Orange Sherbet Slan. You can see him waddling away quite a bit faster on my Vampire. It does have 40 speed compared to the 34 of this guy's toilet seat. We'll see if we can get an attack here, and it looks like a nice little 400 damage chunk coming in, which is quite good. In Solastra, I'm using her in the back line to kind of secure and help terror out these guys. You can see she actually causes terror, so it's very useful in the late game. She does terror out the Saurus. And we're actually able to stabilize one of the gun lines, which is going to be very important. The other one is pretty much just in the pits here. You can see the Skinks and all these guys are just swarming and laying a bit of an unholy beatdown, but they're actually pulling back. So, they're actually going to go and intercept the Depth Guard, which is good. So these guys coming back, 191 kills, 100% have paid for themselves, but they're going to be going down to Skink Fire here, or at least taking a ton of damage. They don't have any true missile mitigation or anything like that. So these bad boys going to be getting whittled down, and when they're not in melee combat, they're not going to be healing. So very good play for my opponent, using the Skinks to slow me down, keep me from getting back into melee, and also keep me from healing. So that's some pretty cool stuff. In the back line, I still have one of my Zombie Pirate Gunnery mobs. Looks like the Saurus here have been fended off, and it's pretty much just Lizardmen rallying everywhere, right? They're all very beat up, but they're coming back slowly, and it's going to be the last stand of the Vampire Coast here, as I do rush the Lostrian, but I have to be careful because the Orange Sherbet Slan actually does do magic damage, so he can hit her pretty damn hard. But I go in there, I pop the Song of Enthrallment which is going to slow these guys by almost 50% and also lower their combat stats. So she's holding them back, allowing my gun line to shoot and fire. The zombie pirate gunnery mobs just fighting to the bitter end here, just blasting apart these Saurus as they do advance. And that Celostra is just such a good lord. I actually think she's got probably the best lord in this matchup. In the back here, the skink cohorts have rushed in. They're going to be chipping away at the zombie pirate gunnery mobs. Not a whole lot I can do there, but at least they cause fear, so they can potentially rout the skinks with a little bit of pressure. Celostra and the Vampire Fleet Captain are holding. Another group of Pterodon Riders just diving in. Such an insanely close game. Just so well played to my opponent. This is just so back and forth. The Slan Mage right here with the High Magic is coming in on his toilet seat. And it looks like he actually does get some really good damage on Celostra. So in desperation, I summon some deckhand mobs. We're going to pile in there. But my other gunnery mobs on the other side are just being darted down by skinks. The skinks also killed my other depth guard. So I'm pretty much out of juice on this side of the formation, right? And he has a lot of stuff coming back. Things are just getting so damn close here. On top of that, the summoned deckhand mob's doing really good because I do drop a taunt from the captain here, which lowers their armor and melee defense. Of course, it just wore off, but they're very low leadership, and the hordes of zombies here are eventually grinding them down. In the back, we do have the Vampire Fleet Captain, who's going to be fighting against the Slan on his toilet seat. And Celostra, I'm just falling back every chance I get with her, just roaming back there and trying my best to defend the skin cohort. So really just kind of working on that. The Slan Mage, the High Mage, I keep forgetting what he is, but he does pop the Aura Pretzel here to give him melee defense and armor. Pterodon Riders do dive in, and it looks like the Aura does actually hit them as well, so I keep forgetting it does that. And yeah, he's putting a lot of good pressure. Skinks are piling in as well, so it's looking a little bit scary, actually, as all my guns are probably going to at least take a ton of damage here, but thankfully I had another summon, right? So I've been really conservative with my summons in the early game just so I could spam them out in the late game. They're going to be fighting the Saurus, and I might actually be able to buckle the Saurus off there. And for the first time, I'm finally able to pull ahead on the bounce of power here. You can see Celostra Direfon just fighting off these Pterodon Riders who are shattered. There's skinks coming in, but man, these zombie gunnery mobs are just MVPs, just holding, taking all these darts, not breaking. Very proud of these guys, but it's really been up to Celostra to kind of defend, right? So these are low leadership units for the most part, these skinks, right? And it's the late game. That's when units are really susceptible to terror routing. And you can see she might be able to get a terror out on these guys. It's hard to say, but he's going to be charging in. The Slan High Mage actually took a bit of a beating from the Vampire Fleet Captain, who's a much better melee combatant. They do have 60 and 40 and 430, right? So they hit pretty hard. So the Slan Mage does have to run. The Vampire and the summoned deckhand mobs are going to be fighting there to the bitter end. And here you can see these zombie pirates just getting grinded out. I mean, they're pretty much dead now. Like the skinks swarm in, the chameleons, their Saurus coming back, who do get the cold blood, which gives them leadership, so they're not going to break as easily. And now, I mean, it's looking a little bit crazy. All I have left actually are the zombie pirate deckhand mobs. Bounce of power is slightly in my favor. And you can see we do fight in here. But honestly, the biggest thing I have going for me, Song of Enthrallment is very good. And I also do have terror. So the fact that there's so many low leadership units here, not leadership, but low health, just kind of beat up. And the Vampire Fleet Captain is also quite strong and causes fear himself. So leadership really becoming an issue for these guys. Shield of the Old Ones does go down, giving the leadership and damage resist, but I'm just barely holding on by a thread. 607 HP on this guy. Celostra has about 1400, but she is ethereal, of course. So we're just holding, fighting. And here I do slip through. So I finally found an opening. I was like, I'm going for the Alpha Strike. We jump on the Slan. We're able to just hit him so hard that it's pretty much an Alpha Strike, and it triggers my opponent's army losses. So very well played. That was just absolutely insane. And that's actually the anti-Lizardmen build for my guide. But what my opponent brought is also a very hard counter. I wouldn't say hard counter, but it's one of the more optimal style builds against the Vampire Coast as well. So it was really fun to get to test out my guide build in this like competitive, intense matchup versus the Lizardmen here. The Saurus just so tough to deal with, but the depth guard were really MVPs. 101, 97 here. The Chameleon Skinks were pretty good. Pterodon Riders caused a ton of disruption in the back line, and his Tempest play was so good against my deck droppers. Like that was just brutal. Like pretty much just killed two groups like immediately. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think Celostra in the summoning is really good. Luther is very good in this build as well, but if I had had Luther, I would have been like spam Tempest. The Pterodons would have been poking me. Skinks would have been poking me. It would have been hard to generate value. So I really think she is better. Damn Knight Errants here and just all that stuff is really good. So so very well played to my opponent, Hyale Nale. Hyale Nale, I probably totally mangled that, but very well played to you, man. Looking forward to facing off again. I know we had a nice little chat after the game, so we will be having more showdowns. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this Vampire Coast versus Lizardmen game. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.